Okay. All right, here we go. So this is the building, and this is our little penthouse, and these are the floors. And really, I want you to truly get, because I'm going to be referring to this all the time, that this is you, and when you're born, you are already structured in so many ways, and so that's the building.
Yeah, this like resonates for me. The building that you're born into in astrology is essentially the birth chart of the archetypes of everything that you're gonna encompass in your one incarnation. I like this.
And you can't move that building once you're here. So once
yeah, and that's really funny too. I love Carolyn Myss. She is so truthful, so funny, and you can't move it. Like once it's in motion, all of it's in motion. So it's like the birth chart, once set, is the birth chart that you're going to unfold for this life. And what's really interesting is that there was like a year span where I kept running into people who had died and come back to life and trying to figure out, like, do they activate a new birth chart because they died and came back to life, if it was by minutes or whatever. And I don't think so. I think you live always from that first birth chart, even if you die, your heart, everything stops for like 5 minutes and somehow you come back to life and experience a miracle. I don't think you start on a new birth chart.
Once we've arrived, I arrived in Chicago and there was nothing I could do about that. I can't.
I arrived in Chicago too.
Tell my mother, squeeze me back in. I want to be born in Sacramento. Okay, so, but.
Okay, can I just pause too and just say where you are born matters so much. And I got it, of course, in a physical reality, of course it matters. But like in astrology for your birth chart, the city you are born changes how the birth chart shows up. So like you could be born on the same day, the same time, but based on the city that you're located or born in, it changes your actual astrological chart. So like the architecture of what she's saying with this building and these levels, which this is a prime teaching of hers that I love, is just incredible. And that a lot of this it comes down to, I think, where you're born, but also time of birth. And then let's not forget the parents that you're born to, because you are a birth chart born to two other birth charts raising you, or two other buildings giving birth to you and influencing you.
There is so much contained in where you're born, where your parents are, the history that will already, so that determines the outside architecture of your building. So much of the design of the building. But after that, all your movement is internal. For the rest of your life.
So I really like when she says, after that, all your movement is internal. And what this means to me as an astrologer, and as someone who studies psychophysiology, so the mind and the body is a unit, is that once you're placed here, the energetic process feels like ascension. It feels only vertical, which explains why in the power hierarchies on Earth, why we feel the above and below in the relativity. I do not think that is actually true. So I think that a lot of systems on Earth function with this idea of the vertical, and then the businesses are born with the vertical, and so businesses have this pyramid hierarchy, tip-toppity top, where the energy comes down, and then we essentially are going to travel up, and then of course collapse back down until essentially what I believe from her premise is you gain mastery over all the floors. Let's see what she says, because are the floors connected to dimensions? Are the floors just our own perception? Does everybody have the same floors? Are the floors different? Like, I'm kind of going in a lot of places, and I really value her insight, and I want to hear what she says.
It will be about you moving up the floors and what floor you want to see your life in. And I'm telling you, I actually had this experience on a hot summer day in August in New York when I went to see a friend. And it was such a hot day, and it was a Bunyan day. And this, I remember everything about this day, and I think because I was supposed to remember it. And I
do like this pause too and reflect. Like, she's being so vulnerable, so open, so honest, and I love when spiritual teachers do this, because she's saying, like, how did the connection come to her? How did she figure this out? How did she manifest the actual, like, idea of the penthouse and the floors? And she's recounting it to a moment in her life. And of course, the moment she does that, I do that. I assume you'll do that with me. I'm already in New York. I am already back at a trip where I got together with a bunch of college friends in New York and had the wildest, craziest adventure of my life. My flip-flop broke while walking down the streets of New York, and I had to walk barefoot. And so I'll leave you with that. Let's see what happened to her.
To have bunion surgery. If you ever had bunions, you know exactly how horrible that is. But it was so hot, and my feet hurt, and I was just not a happy camper. And the streets were hot, and da-da-da-da. And I finally got to her building, and I couldn't wait to take my shoes off and just get in. And New York can be very fragrant in the summertime.
So can New Orleans. I would say that New Orleans is, well, it depends. I mean, one is more of urine and one is more of sewage, right? Anyways.
And she happened to have one of these small balconies, which in New York is big real estate. And so we sat on the balcony, and she said, just take your shoes off. And she brought out 2 iced teas. I cannot tell you. I think the whole thing was choreographed by the divine, because I went from the state of, oh my God, I'm in so much pain, to and in that state, the city that was so first floor, horrendous, all my 5 senses, this place.
So here's something interesting and paradoxical, because Carolyn Myss is saying when she was in New York, her senses were like activated, the smells, the noises, whatever. And I don't know if it's like just me. I'm assuming it's not, but like the rush and the hustle and the bustle of like New York or London or any of the cities that are like really moving is actually can be very, very calming on my system. So I think there's like some little paradoxical stuff here too, where maybe just depending on our disposition or what our spirit craves or what it needs in a moment, like maybe one moment it does feel good when all the senses come to life. Maybe other times it doesn't. Maybe it was just because her feet were hurting that it didn't. Like, I don't know. We'll keep listening, because this is how she birthed her idea and got to this idea that I know is fundamental to her work. So I feel like the energy within it is so rich with more than we'll just hear with her words. So we have to like process it.
Smells bad. It looks bad. I can't stand the sound of those taxis. All my 5 senses were like, and I go up there, and all my 5 senses go.
Okay, so like, why do my 5 senses go when I am like walking into the magnificence of like the bustling, honking, and people moving? Like, it's just crazy to have such a wildly different impact at times.
And from that, they were like tranquilized. And then I look upon, and now I see a city where the sun begins to set, the lights begin to go up, and it starts to sparkle. And I thought, this is gorgeous. No, I'm at the same address. We're just 2 hours earlier, standing at the same thing. It smelled. It was putrid to me. But now,
okay, you know what this reminds me of, and why this is so interesting to me, and why I love this teaching? Because I've seen it reverse too. Have you ever been in a place or an environment where everything was sparkling, everything felt perfect, and it seemed like right when you got there, everything looked great, and then the more you spend time in the place, it loses the sparkle, and you see like the truth behind the packaging? So I think that this ascension or descension or sparkle to desparkle or whatever she's kind of talking about, at least in my life, can happen in both directions. So I can see something as completely mundane, And then the sparkle is birthed through time and connection, or I can think there's a sparkle there, and then it's like disintegrate. I think about like when we bought our house, and it looked so great, but then 5 years later, when we realized it was all builder grade, like, and everything's deteriorating so much faster than the older home we had in Chicago, I'm thinking, holy smoke, I didn't get it till I got it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I like this. I'm kind of with her. I'm like walking with her, but I'm also seeing kind of how it plays in two directions for me.
Same address, but at a different height and a different altitude, the world looked gorgeous to me. And I actually sat there with this iced tea and I thought, you know what? This is just like life. It depends on what altitude you are living in your own self, that you look upon something, that if you decide, I can't change it, but I've got to get a higher perspective. And the more windows I put on this challenge, the more windows I have, the better I'm going to understand this.
So this is interesting because in astrology, I am trained to view everything as a circle. And even in the body, like everything has a rhythm or a pacing, like the breath and the heartbeat and the way the systems work together. So the idea, the relative idea of like above and below, high or low, feels very like linear to me. So I think it isn't quite a straight up line. And if we could stretch our imaginations into a building that's a fucking like circle, and I don't know, oh my God, wouldn't that be like the 100 when they like live in that circle in outer space? Like if we can stretch our mind into that, sometimes going up is going down is going up. Or the idea that if you travel far enough east, you end up in the west, you travel far enough north, you end up in the south. So like I'm seeing this and I'm like grasping this like wonderful concept she has, and I do agree that sometimes it could just be adding that ascension, although I would add in my perspective, maybe sometimes I need to, up and down doesn't mean ascend or descend to me. I guess that's what I'm trying to like spit out and get clarity around, or like speak it.
But like anything else, every floor inside of you is more expensive than the one below. Make no mistake. It costs you more money to develop your consciousness. And that money is not physical, by the way. It is energy money. It is energetics. It costs a lot to pull a perception out of yourself, or something that you thought was a myth, something that you thought was true, and yank it out and get up to the next altitude.
Okay, so wow, I love this. She is saying, I am hearing, it isn't a monetary cost to access the different floors, right? It is not a monetary cost. It is not anything external cost. It's an internal choice. And based on the choices you make, which have a cost, but just not of the like physical monetary, that's what gives you access to the other floors. Or in my brain, I'm thinking like other dimensions or other perspectives. So for instance, and I can say for this, me personally, and I don't know if you've ever kicked an addiction or anything like that, my life changes radically, changed radically after I quit smoking. I used to be a manager, and whenever I was a smoker, somehow all my staff were smokers. And when I wasn't a smoker, my staff weren't smokers. And I thought it was like the craziest little parallel. And then now, if I think about things that I've given up in my life, like sugar, I avoid sugar at all costs. And it's like, I'm profoundly in a different floor simply because sugar made me so hungry all the time that I wasn't even eating food to eat food. I was eating it for like a dopamine. My brain was eating, not like my body. And so like, I am like feeling her, because I think it seemed at first to me like, oh my God, I have to give up sugar for the body, was like the first, maybe like that lower floor level for me. And then when I was like, holy shit, why would I sacrifice my body for sugar? What the fuck does sugar have over a healthy body? Which is absolutely nothing, right? But that was like, do you see that little like switch? And that's what like got me to quit sugar, to not want it, to like go through my own birthday without birthday cake. It really bothers people. But like the moment that stuff touches me, I feel disgusting and I feel ravenously hungry like a fucking wolf, like a wolf who can never stop eating. And I'm like, sugar, sugar, stay away from me. Anyways, that is one of the costs where like my life has dramatically changed. And you wouldn't think it, but it is. And I think this is kind of what she's talking about, the cost. But if you invert it, the cost doesn't actually feel like the cost after you make it. It kind of changes how you see the thing.
It costs a lot because on every floor you have friendships.
Yeah.
You have structures. You have relationships. And what if you suddenly come to terms, like for example, what if here you are stopping after work, having a beer, eating a hot dog, da-da-da-da, and all of a sudden you get, do you know what's in a hot dog? Do you, right.
I just have to stop too and say what heartbreak it is to move to other floors, thinking your other friends will move to other floors with you, and they don't.
I mean, do you know what's in this? And you say to your friends, do you know what's in this? And they're like, yeah. And it doesn't bother them. And all of a sudden, you're like, you go to bed at night, you say, I can never have another hot dog. It's the most horrible thing in the world. I got to tell them. And none of them care. But no, listen, you're on the floor where all of a sudden you're becoming conscious of what you eat. Now, this is a big deal. You think it's funny because I can present it that way.
Thank you. And you do present it funny. I love it that you present it funny. We need to hear it funny. Humor helps the medicine go down. But you will tell everyone everything you know, and they will not care. They will not care. Like, I could say alcohol is a depressant. It makes you depressed. It's messing up your stomach and your psyche, and people are going to be like, who cares? I like it. Right? And it won't, I'll sound insane, especially to the people who knew me when I used to do it. Then I sound kind of like a hypocrite, don't I? Just because I've evolved out of it.
Not. Because you are now becoming conscious that you are what you eat. That you are what you eat. And you're living with a bunch of Neanderthals.
Okay, we're going to end on that note because it's so freaking perfect. I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I don't think this dawned on my consciousness until more recently in my journey. I would say from when I turned 40, some reason I finally understood the food thing on a whole different level, and the health thing, and the physical wellness thing. And so like, yes, I'm totally following this. I'm totally loving this. We have these different dimensions. We have these different perspectives and ways of seeing. Yes, there's this kind of building pillar. I'm kind of operating from this circular pillar of like moving up and down the floors. I kind of have some paradoxical experiences, but in concept, I absolutely agree that we have to pay a cost, not monetary, not built in power, not through someone else's permission of us, but through our own free will choices to enter these other places. Thank you so much for this beautiful freaking teaching, Carolyn Myss. You are exceptional. I will link this full video for anyone who's interested below. Okay, bye-bye.